Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I'm Mark Schumacher. I'm the Chief Executive Officer of the Home Furnishings Association, and this is our weekly webinar. And this week, it's all about e-com, but I want to make one thing really clear right out of the gates here. Today's webinar is not really a how-to. It's really more of a what's next, how to grow and sustain e-com, because let's face it, it's not going away. It's a bigger part of your business regardless of how robust your program is. And we just know that there's an awful lot to think about now as you move forward. And some of the things we're going to cover today, I'm just going to highlight a couple things here because we've gotten some great questions from many of you, but we're going to be talking about, managing your e-commerce site with limited inventory. Hello. Reducing cart abandonment. We're going to talk about financing online. We're going to also talk about ROI, things of that sort. We have a great group with us here because we really go across the spectrum. We have Jared Simon joining us. Jared is part of a family-owned business up in the Boston area, Simon Furniture, so a single store operator. But then we have from Delaware, we have Dave Kohler. He's the chairman of Johnny Janasic, a chain of stores up in that area, and he's got actually in his conference room there a couple of his experts in this field to join. So we're really getting some extra help there. And then also we have senior consultant Terry Pewson with Fit for Commerce. They are an associate member of this association, one of the many vendors that you can tap into by being a member. But she's here too because, of course, their consultancy is one that's filled with a lot of really great track records for what's going on out there and really helping us put it all in perspective. So for the three of you, thank you so much for joining us. And this is kind of fun that I get to kind of pick where I want to go here. Jared, I'm going to start with you.
Absolutely.
You guys have a single store, which, there's so many of our members and many people on this call today that are single store operators. When the pandemic hit, e-com became important. Not everybody was super sophisticated in e-com. Give us a quick snapshot of e-com, what it was, what it is today for you all at Simon's.
So we had been building out, thanks Mark, we've been building out our e-commerce platform for many years now. Kind of pre-pandemic, we kind of saw where the industry was going and knew that e-commerce would be an important part of our business. We focused first on appliances and mattresses, and we were just starting to roll out different aspects of furniture e-commerce when the pandemic hit. And all those things had to kind of accelerate at once. And what happened was we went from doing a custom order business in store to having to sell more commodity items online, and while also reevaluating how we were going to sell higher end custom furniture online in this kind of difficult time. So what we did was we first started with what was easiest. What would we know that could sell right away online, and what were we geared towards? So that was leaned more towards appliances and mattresses, recliners, more items that people need and they need it quickly. That's where we kind of went first. But then as the years evolved, we've now developed out a much more robust e-commerce content that allows us to sell higher end furniture online and pique those customers' interests.
Okay, so we're going to talk more about that. So thank you for that little bit of history lesson there, because you guys have come a long way. Dave Kohler and your team at Johnny Janasic, were you guys fully transactional prior to the pandemic, or were you transactional but now become much more? Give us an idea about the state of your e-com right now.
So we were fully transactional for several years prior to coming into the pandemic, but we weren't doing as much business on there as we would like to do. But one of the things we recognized a long time ago is that we really wanted to catch the customer while they're in the shopping process, engage them, and really try to drive them into the store to do more business. We're going to sell a lot of commodity items online. I mean, if it's a $3.99 Ashley recliner, it's pretty easy. You can make that sale online. But when you start getting into a lot of the better end goods that we carry, it really requires our team to be able to do the custom order. You have to be able to see the fabrics if you're getting ready to do special order, touch it, feel it, sit in it. So we recognized prior to pandemic, and we actually, interestingly enough, it was one of our key initiatives as a company going into 2021, and we had put a lot of effort into it. Obviously, we have our team here, and we brought Tim on board to help us with that because he has a background in transactional e-commerce. And so we really wanted to get focused on it. We said it's a key initiative for us, and just coincidentally, the timing fell into place.
Well, Terry, I want to dig in much deeper here in just a second, but can you give us a perspective from your consultant point of view? We can anecdotally talk about the importance of e-com in these brick and mortar businesses, but what are the numbers showing us? I mean, the percentage I'm sure has grown, but can you give us just a brief snapshot as to where our industry is right now when it comes to the brick and mortar retailers and their e-com component?
Yeah, Mark, I don't have exact statistics, but everybody's ecom business grew in 2020 as a proportion, a proportion of their total business. Most industries, went from, it's just industries dependent. It's, can go from 5% to 20%. The national average for the US right now is closer to 15% of all business is done in e-commerce. The furniture industry has historically been well below the national average, as customers have been slower to adopt e-commerce for furniture. But as 2020 proved, everybody's business had to move online. So everybody's now trying to figure out where that new normal is. From their perspective, as we go into a post-COVID world, as to how many of their customers are going to stay e-commerce versus come back into the stores. And that is, quite honestly, that's a little bit up in the air for everybody at this point in time. I think everybody's trying to figure out exactly where that fulcrum is going to land. It will not go as far back to the left as it was pre-COVID, but it will not stay at where it was during the worst of the COVID lockdown.
Okay, fair enough, and I appreciate that, and that's good information because at the end of the day, that's now a percentage that you cannot ignore. You want to build on that. So this is not something that any retailer out there can afford to ignore that. Let's dig into some of these areas we talked about, because there are some great questions that we have seen come in already for today. So let's talk about one of the biggest issues that we're dealing with right now, and that is a lack of inventory. Let me start, Dave, I'll start with you guys there in Delaware. How are you managing the fact that there's so much product that you can't get your hands on, yet you want to sell obviously a lot online? How do you balance this out? How are you managing that so you're not disappointing the customer even further?
Well, we're working very hard to engage with the customer and let them know up front that it is a challenge. Many of our customers today know that, they're aware of that because of other items in other industries. But when the dust settles, they're still getting upset when they're waiting beyond 3 to 4 months in a lot of cases. Our website though does indicate what is in stock, what is currently in stock, or what is on display in the store. Obviously it's a far cry from what it was pre-COVID in terms of what is in stock and available, but we're starting to recover, if you will, from that aspect, and we're seeing more and more product starting to hit and starting to come in. So we're recovering on that aspect, and I think a lot of customers are gravitating to what you do have in stock. Interestingly enough, though, we have found during this time that if customers say, you know what, if I'm going to have to wait, I might as well wait for what I want rather than settle for something that you might just happen to have in stock.
Fair enough. Jared, are you seeing some of the same dynamic there at Simons?
Absolutely. So what we did was we've created, as a smaller retailer, sometimes some of our inventory is tied into our website that gives a live update to consumers, whether something's available. And we tend to say something's in stock if we are to have 2 or more of that item. That way you don't get to the last item and someone buys something online that's in stock and then you find out you have none. So what we did was we branded our in-stock collections and furniture as express delivery. And reason why we said express delivery versus in stock was that way, in case you have 2 in your warehouse, you sell 2 and one's on its way up here, from North Carolina or on order with a factory, express delivery, it's going to move faster than normal. When your lead times are 16 to 20 weeks, a 3 to 4 week lead time could be an express ship time. And this also, which is crazy, but it does allow us to, rather than every day mark what's in stock and what's not on the items we have to manually update, we kind of have a collection of products that we decided that were what we call fast delivery in stock that we 99% of the time have, but we've branded as quick delivery. And what we wanted to talk to is that consumer who's frustrated, who maybe has gone to 4 or 5 other stores and been told everywhere it's 4 or 5 month delivery. Well, we want to say we have some stuff available. This is what you can get right away. And to David's point, that consumers are finding that if they're going to have to wait for any time period, they want to really customize and get exactly what they want. So what we're finding is that sometimes people will come in to shop your store based on your website indicating that items are in stock, but they have no real intention of purchasing those items. They just want to see what's possibly available now, so then they can decide if they're willing to wait and place that special order and wait for exactly what they want.
Couple of great takeaways. A couple of great takeaways there. Yeah, Terry, jump in because there's some interesting insights.
Jared and Dave said, and it is so important to be able to speak to the customers up front about what is available. And to the point of actually being able to look at your website and seeing if you can aggregate those into a certain searchable set of products so that the customers can immediately identify online. I do need something right away. I don't want to be bothered by the stuff that's going to take 5 months to get here. And so if you can make that easy for them to find on your website, that really helps their customer journey through your shop. So it's one tagging something as express delivery, for example, but two, it's making it searchable or putting it into its own category so that it's easy to identify for the customer that says, okay, I need it in a month, I need it now, I need it whatever, and show me what you have. And don't frustrate them by paging through at page after page after page of products, trying to figure out what they can get now is very important.
And I got to tell you something on a personal level. There was a shopping experience I had just a week ago, and I won't tell you what I was shopping for, but I will just tell you this, that I had to go through 3 pages of out of stock and unavailable, out of stock, unavailable. By the time I got to the 4th page, I was done. I was moving on somewhere else. And
it's
I think that
you're to the 4th page.
Isn't it? Well, I mean, seriously, but that's what you're talking about. If you're not, giving them an idea what they can get, then you're already frustrating them. By the way, and I apologize for chuckling earlier, but I saw even the gang up there in Delaware making movement when it was like 4-week express delivery. That's today's world, but it's just so mind-boggling. Even one of the questions that came in, they referred to it as furniture fulfillment in a non-inventory environment. And
Yeah.
those things are just
one of the things we do to attack that, and fortunately our web service provider on the back end, we give them feeds every 3 hours of what is in stock. So on our line, it's automatically updated as to what is in stock every 3 hours. And then to your point about searchable, you can search what's in stock, and you can search what's in stock by category if you want. Like you go into bedroom, or if you go into dining room, and you can put what's in stock and click it, then it'll pull up those items that are in stock available.
Yeah, that's perfect.
And Terry, real quick, and again, we're having this conversation to hopefully benefit everybody that's either watching right now or will see this when it's recorded. Is that the number one concern or thing that you believe that a retailer right now needs to be mindful of? Is this inventory question? Would you put that toward the top of the list?
I put it towards the top of the list. Could I call it number one? I don't know. There's so many things that for a customer's online journey that you have to be cognizant of. It starts with searchability. It also starts with pictures. And that sounds like such a basic, a basic thing. But without the ability to go into a store and touch and feel it, your images online are going to have to tell your story. So they need to be clear. They need to have great resolution. You need to have multiple views of the product. You need to make sure that you are talking about dimensions and all of this pieces of information that a customer might have before, when they were kind of, I'll call it window shopping or browsing, they could say, oh, this is nice, I want to go in and see it. Now if you're not going to go in and see it, you're going to have to do a much better job of making that product come alive while they're searching for it. So starting with what we call basic blocking and tackling of imagery is something that's very important. You can't just have one image of a chair or a table, or that's not going to cut it in today's world.
And we could do a whole another webinar on the fact that our industry is very spotty when it comes to content available to retailers. Just what you're talking about, but that's for another day. Let me ask this, and Jared, I'll start with you this time. So one of the other areas that we've gotten a lot of questions about is cart abandonment. And you said a few moments ago, talked about the fact of people sort of testing the waters and what's available, what's not. Is cart abandonment something that you are having to deal with? What does it look like? Give us an idea.
Yes. So what we find is that a lot of what we're seeing is that people tend to be shopping online and window shopping online. So instead of coming into a store and browsing around and thinking about buying an item, they're shopping online, and they may add an item to their shopping cart to see what your delivery charge is. They may add an item in there just to see, is it a quick checkout process? They may add it in there to save it for later, but there's some reason that they didn't ultimately make that purchase. And so what we're finding is if someone adds something to a shopping cart, it's very important to make sure that you can get contact information for that customer, because you want to follow up with that lead as soon as possible and figure out what the customer's needs are and help them, whether it's something that you need to get them quickly or if they want to come in store. But what we're finding is that that customer who's adding something to their shopping cart but not pressing the checkout button is in market and is considering other retail options. That could be online stores, it could be other retailers in your market. But if you can get in touch with that customer early, and we always try to get them on the phone or text them right away to start talking to them, to have that conversation while that's still top of mind. So if someone added a mattress to a shopping cart at 1 in the morning last night, we'd want to talk to them around 10 a.m. to see if while they're still tired before they, the second cup of coffee is kicked in. So
how's your back feeling?
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Very interesting what Jared said, because he's absolutely correct in the statistics that we know from Fit for Commerce is that 49% of the people who add something to cart and don't check out, it's because the other costs are too high. So they did not, so to your point, they're checking out shipping costs or tax or any other fees that might be coming into play. And it's so important because of that you are upfront with your customers earlier in the purchase process. What you can tell them on a product detail page about your shipping times, or even taxes, or at least even in the cart, before you start trying to implement checkout. The more information you've given them up front, the better educated they're going to be as to whether or not they want to move forward. So other things that stop customers from continuing is the need to create an account. If you don't offer guest checkout, and some customers are thinking, I'm a one and done purchase with you, at least in my mind right now, I don't want to create an account. If you don't offer guest checkout, if you don't offer multiple payment options, all of these things are things that will impede you at the checkout process. And so you need to look at your checkout process and make sure that you are removing as many of these obstacles, or at least providing the information as early in the shopping process as you can to your customers, so that they, that you don't have this high abandonment rate.
Huge takeaway. Let me ask the Johnny Janosic team, how are you guys dealing with and handling cart abandonment on your site?
Well, we're sending an email to them, and then we're following up as quickly as possible with them, to Jared's point, to try to find out exactly what's going on. The other thing that we're doing is we're tracking when someone comes onto our site with a pixel, and if they look at an item or they view items, we try to resend to them the items that they were looking at. I know a lot of you have experienced, if you go and you put something in your shopping cart and you don't buy it, a day or so later or 24 hours later, you go, hey, we noticed you were looking at this. Guess what? Here's a coupon for the item that you were looking at. And we reserve it up to those customers. So we're doing a lot of that through our digital programs now. And when customers are shopping that, we're trying to reserve that item back up to them with some kind of an incentive or an urgency to go ahead and buy it now. One of the things I would say that, from our perspective is that, and this question may come up, and I may be jumping the gun there, Mark, a little bit, but we know we're not going to out Amazon, okay? And that's not what we're trying to do. I'm not really, to be perfectly honest with you, interested in selling a sofa in California, okay, which is on the other side of the United States from us, because dealing with customer expectation levels and freight damage and so on and so forth becomes really kind of overwhelming. Right now our focus is really to try to maintain the market share within the areas that we serve, and not let the competitor come into our marketplace and take market share from us. We obviously know that they are, and they're selling in our area, but if we can capture that customer and maintain the market share right here where we are, that's really the primary focus of what our website is all about. And again, as we mentioned earlier, we sell a lot of commodity items online, but it's really about engaging that customer, because when we can get them into the store, we can get them on the phone immediately and contact them and begin a conversation with them. We earn their trust, we earn their confidence, and they're much more willing to come in the store because we can enhance the customer experience and get a much bigger average ticket by doing so.
And I want to get into that next, but let me just remind people that are just joining us that we are talking today with a tremendous group of guests here about really how to sustain and grow your e-com, knowing it's become a much bigger part of your bottom line. And joining us is Terry Fuson. She's a senior consultant with Fit for Commerce. We've got Jared Simon of Simon's Furniture in the Boston area, and we've got Dave Kohler and his team from Johnny Gnostic up in the Delaware area. Let's jump into what Dave just said, because there's a great question that came in that asked, are average tickets lower on e-commerce than in-store, or what is the ratio? So Terry, I'm going to start with you. Jared, hold on a second. I'll get that's okay. Terry, what are you seeing overall when it comes to ticket e-commerce versus in-store?
We don't necessarily see a huge difference in average ticket value. Again, I'm going to be more general across industry. I don't have the answer in home, so I would actually look to Dave and Jared to see what they have to say. But overall, in general, there's plenty of industries where the average order value on e-com is higher than it is in the store, and then some that are lower, and it tends to average out. But I would be interested to hear home furnishings, because I don't know that one.
Well, Jared, go for it. You raised your hand.
So it's interesting. We find that sometimes people will buy stuff based on the time of night or day in the evening that they're buying something, and we'll see them buy something online, and it's like the $299 commodity recliner, and we go, okay, we can look at the customer's history and see that's like nothing they've ever purchased, and why are they buying this? And so we usually call the customer to ask them some questions, and sometimes the conversation goes, hey, I saw you bought a recliner online. Is this, are you replacing, what are you replacing? And they go, well, I was unhappy that my recliner was hurting my back last night, so I just bought this online as a cheap solution. But really, I need to buy something that's significantly better, and it almost acts as a tee up. So if you said, so looking at it from a pure e-commerce standpoint, is that a lower ticket sale? Yes, but then when that customer comes in the store, or if you send them pictures from your showroom of more expensive, better products, they'll end up buying, and they may never even set foot in the showroom, but they'll spend twice as much money. And
so you're talking about an upsell. I mean, you're talking about an upsell opportunity in some cases. Interesting.
And you would be surprised at some of the average, that sometimes consumers that are shopping online, we find that they are more, they're not looking for just an item to fill the space. They're researching, and they're looking for something like, they want something that's heavy duty. They want something that's better. And we find that if you have enough information in your content online, customers will step themselves up more than they may have in store, because they can see right next to each other, this chair has, if it's a recliner, this one has 100-pound weight capacity, this one has 200, they choose the one that's heavier duty, and they can compare it without a salesperson there. So it really comes down to the data, I think, in order to drive up those average tickets, because a roll arm sofa looks the same from $999 to $10,000. It all looks the same. So how you romance it and describe the features of the products really can help the consumer guide them to a higher average ticket.
And I think Jared also making a really key point here about there in the past could have been the online customer is an online customer, and to really get the full experience, you have to go into a showroom and talk to our salespeople who are highly trained, et cetera. I think this past year has taught us that you need to be innovative in how you do it. So the way that Jared and their company is reaching out to customers and asking questions on their order, think about it as the same if that person had walked in and started looking at a $299 recliner. What would the conversation have been, right? So looking at opportunities that you have with either live chat or other types of apps that you can add to your e-commerce site, so that you can facilitate those conversations with your salespeople, even if people can't or are unwilling to come into a store environment at this point in time. Those, you can almost mimic the same experience that they would have had in the store if you're creative enough to do that.
And Terry, what I love about that is that a lot of this is not rocket science, nor should it be. It's just good engagement. What Jared's talking about is just good customer engagement, whether it's initially online, on the phone, whatever it might be. There are aspects of it that bleed through all of it. Dave, let me ask you and your team there, when it comes to ticket size, what are you guys finding?
Well, we definitely find we tend to run a much higher average ticket than a lot of stores throughout the U.S. because of the mix of product that we have. Again, our main store here in Laurel is 180,000 square feet. So we carry from, Ashley to Bernhard and Lexington. And so, there's a lot of variation in between there in what the consumer can buy. But, again, to Jared's point and what Terry's saying is that, our initiative when we began to say, this is a key initiative for us this year, was that I wanted to react as soon as that customer basically hits our site or begins to engage with us. If we have the opportunity, we want them on the phone. We want to be able to get them on the phone. So if they give us a phone number, we're immediately going to try to pick up the phone and call them. The sooner we get to them before they go somewhere else. We begin to engage them. We ask the questions. What are you looking for? What are you really trying to do here? So that we can upsell and at the same time make their experience much better and be sure we sell them something that is going to satisfy what they're looking for. I sort of liken it to the old days of, back before we had the internet, we had the 1-800 phone numbers, and you had a group of people sitting in a room, the phone would ring, you'd pick it up, and boom, you start to engage the customer and you start to find out what it is they're looking for, and we have immediate engagement with the customer. So our goal is that hopefully we can get a phone number when they're beginning to contact with us so that we can pick up the phone and call them right back immediately, because it's always like first one across the line is probably going to win, okay? And so as soon as we can get a hold of the customer and talk to them and begin to engage them, then we have a much better success of either selling them something online or B, really, again, trying to get them in the store and really get the customer experience so that they enjoy the shopping process and they go, wow, I enjoyed coming in your store and seeing all the different products. And it was, a fun experience for me.
You become their friend in the industry when you get in touch with them early. You
Right.
become their friend and expert in the industry, and they go back to you every time.
Well, and I guess you're also saying don't be fearful of that. I know that there are some retailers that are a little bit reticent to be too much of a stalker, but then again, the point of the matter, like Dave said, the first one across the line is the one that's going to win. I think that that it's really interesting when you talk about the fact that the use of the phone, because coming into the pandemic, that was probably way down the list because of all of the bells and whistles and technology. And I remember that one of the first things during the major shutdown, was one of our members and somebody known to so many people, Keith Koenig of City Furniture, said that they took their best floor salespeople and put them on the phones, so that as calls were coming in, their best salespeople. And at that time, rewarded them the same way. Said commission on the phone, or if they come in, is the same. But the point of the matter is that there's just that's in this pandemic age, that's a more personal contact. And I find it so interesting that here I've got two very different retailers here that are also preaching this. So it's one of the great takeaways is that, take that as your lead, whether it's an abandoned cart, whatever it is, take that as your lead. And if you can get them on the phone, you got a good chance of finalizing everything. So that's really great stuff. We appreciate that. I want to mention, by the way, we've had some other great questions come in. I think we've answered some of these, but there was a question that said, should retailers add as many catalogs as possible to the website to create endless aisle or curate a selection better? We're saying selection because of the fact of availability. So don't give them an endless aisle because those aisles are empty. So there's that part of it. But I love this question. It's very open and broad, but I want to throw this out to each of you. So what are some best practices and what are time wasters? So this is a chance to tell our fellow retailers here, what's the stuff that you should not be spending your time on and what should you be spending your time on? Go ahead, Jared, jump in.
As a small retailer, I I have a strong view that if you don't have something represented in your store, if that person's going to drive, don't show it on your website necessarily, because you may find that you're wasting time following up on leads of someone who comes in your store and goes, there's nothing like what I saw online here. Why am I wasting my time? And you've worked that lead, you've talked to that customer. Don't show people not only what you can't even order, but don't show them what you don't even display or give some experience for. My showroom is 30,000 square feet. It's not 180,000 feet. I want to focus my time focusing on leads of people who are interested in the products that I sell and display and stock. That's my general philosophy, and I find that it's a huge time waster to maintain pricing and content on items that you would rarely sell.
Okay. David, what about you and your team?
I would agree with that 100%. One of the things we found early on was that, we were populating the website with, feeds and catalogs through our provider who gives us the digital asset libraries and connects our point of sale and inventory, with the digital images and so forth. But one of the things we found out is, especially early on, when, if you're not posting prices and you're posting a lot of things, because especially today with the price is changing literally every few weeks.
Right.
I mean, we're spending a lot of time right now on price increases and price changes. But so we were finding that, a consumer would go online and they would look at an Ashley sectional and they would look at a Lexington sectional and they'd say, oh, can you price these for us, or can you tell us about these two? Well, one's $9.99 and one's $39.99, $3,999, and the customer doesn't have any idea in a lot of cases what the difference is between the two. So, to Jared's point, you want to really focus on, and what we try to do is populate our website and populate the first screens in each category with our best sellers and what's online. So we actually try to weight what populates and what shows on the screen when you go in to search for bedroom. And, obviously the two primary drivers are bestseller and in stock, so that, we continue to push the items that we have in stock. The other thing I think we find in that customers trying to engage with us, we're fortunate to drive a lot of traffic to our website, but, when somebody's inquiring from, Nova Scotia, or they're looking from California, I mean, we get people hitting our site from all over the country. And, it's like, okay, well, we certainly want to respond to them and we want to answer them, but they're not the top priority. The people that are close by that potentially are our customers that we can engage and either deliver to very quickly or get to come into the store are the ones we focus on.
Yeah, I mean, earlier you said, you can't be everything to everybody. And I think that's really important. Terry, what would you say is to answer this question, what are the time wasters? What should people not be spending their time on as they kind of want to simplify that e-com process?
I'll flip that a little bit. I'd say, really where you want to focus your effort, and I think we heard it both from Jared and Dave, is that you really want the basic content and information about your product. Get as much of that online as you possibly can, because and if forestall questions, it's going to let customers be able to do their own comparisons. If you can offer them a comparison tool, give the customer as much information and as much visual cues as you possibly can. That's where you should focus your effort. Some of the things that you have,
on the things that you have.
The things that you have, yes, yeah. If, you not want to spend a lot of time chasing orders on things that are 6 months out or 8 months out, or that you're never going to have. That can be very time consuming, but for the items that you have, you should be so rock solid on what you're able to tell the customers online, so that, if they do end up having questions, it should, they should be very informed by the time they get to you, with whatever questions that they might have. Again, it's nice from a visual perspective, not only to show the product, but to give some situational, of what that product looks like in different situations, whether you can get that from your consumers and consumer generated content. That all of those things are visual cues for your customer to help them feel comfortable making that purchase.
Awesome. By the way, if you've just joined us, this is a tremendous webinar that we've put together here about really growing and sustaining your e-com. That's Terry Fuson you just heard from there. She's a senior consultant with Fit for Commerce. We have Jared Simon of Simon's Furniture, and we've got Dave Kohler and his team at Johnny Janosic. A couple of quick hitter questions here that have been coming in. David, do you have a dedicated person to manage your online leads?
Yes, we do. We actually have several. We have Tim's on a lot of the time, but we actually have an internet sales specialist, and we have another person who's not with us today in the room here, who are literally watching the leads that come in, the questions that come in, and when people are on the website, trying to attack that again as quickly as we possibly can. You know, there are times when it gets to be a little overwhelming, you know, even though we have 2 or 3 people that technically are working it all the time, but we're getting so many leads and they're doing the research and the follow-up work that we can't be on it as fast as we can. But yes, we have a dedicated team that's focused almost solely entirely on our online business and trying to maintain that and follow up and take care of online leads.
Okay, now Johnny Janosic, obviously, for those of you that may not be aware, is a top 100 retailer. So Jared, you're a single store operator, smaller operation, so it may be one of those things where you wear a lot of hats, but maybe ask that differently. It's not so much a dedicated person, but is it just a dedication toward having somebody always on top of those leads? How do you guys manage that in a single store environment?
What we've done is we've merged the 2 systems. So our in-store and online, our sales staff sells both directions. So we've been running actually as an appointment model for the past year, with our front door actually is still closed at this moment, which is a little bit crazy, but we are unlocking it starting May 1st. But what we've been able to do is our sales staff, everyone has a tablet, everyone has live chat on their computers, everyone has their own phone and extension. And so what the sales staff does is when they're not with a client on the floor, they are back at their desk and they are checking our lead system to see what new leads have come in. They're checking to see if the leads that they previously responded to have emailed or texted them, or if they need to be re-followed up with. In addition, they may, when they go sit down at their desk, someone may pop up with a live chat for a piece of furniture item. They'll start working with that customer. That's their lead, and that's who they start focusing on. And one of the big advantages we found as a small retailer is that you're talking to the same person online as you do speak on the phone, as you do see in store. And by having the same person in that continuity the whole way through, it allows the customer to build confidence with one person online, set up an appointment with that person online, and then ultimately complete the transaction, maybe even not even in store, because they may only come in one time just to make sure that they're comfortable. But because they've had that personal relationship with one individual the entire way through, we're finding that to be very valuable.
So you're saying not having one person dedicated to it, everybody's dedicated to it. It sounds like, which is a great way of looking at that. And Terry, I want to ask you, and by the way, to everybody that's taking part today, we have in the upper right-hand corner, we have a little handout section, and Terry's been good enough to supply us with additional resources through Fit for Commerce. And I encourage you before you leave us today to download that. But Terry, I know that a lot of this is kind of this bleed over between the e-com site and the store. It seems like you can't pull the 2 apart. But that continuity piece that Jared's talking about, what kind of value do you put on that?
I can't even put a value on it. And it's interesting because it goes actually back to the first question you asked me, Mark, at the beginning, which is the difference between e-com and store sales. That is becoming such a blurry line today, and it has been for the past 2 years. So what do you count as an e-com sale? If it starts in e-com, but they complete it with a store sales associate, is that an e-com sale? Is that a store sale? Quite honestly, we start talking to, it's unified commerce. There are many channels that you are engaging in, and at the end of the day, it's a company sale, right? So so you have to, it's almost hard to say this percentage of my sales are from e-com and this percent are from store,
Sure.
Because they are so interchangeable, particularly in this day and age.
But you just made, first of all, you've given me the term that I'm going to take away and I'm going to use in conversations going forward. And people are going to think I'm so smart when I say, oh, you're talking about unified commerce. I love that. But there's a great point to what you're talking about, though. That's exactly why we're having this conversation, because you can't separate the 2 anymore, right? The percentage is too much as far as the organic e-com sales, but this is what's pushing people into the doors of Johnny Janosic and into Simon's, and it's getting people connected. So no, I'm with you 100%. I think that's super helpful. So let me continue to get us through some of these such great stuff to go through, and I've got a lot of great questions. So, David, do you guys do what kind of financing do you offer online? Is it the same as in store, or is there a little bit of nuance there too? Let's talk a little bit about that, because we get that question a lot from entities asking about what they do as far as financing online.
We are doing financing online, and we began to integrate. We use Wells Fargo for our in-store, and we've now added that platform, I think, about 7 months ago? 10 months ago? About 10 months ago, we added that platform online. And, you know, we see some business come through on that financing end of it. The majority of what we do, obviously, online, it comes through credit cards, and the customer pays with credit cards. But we are doing more and more financing online through the website.
Okay, Jared, what about you?
Well, it was unique. This was a challenge that we ran into last year during the pandemic shutdown, that we had quite a substantial number of customers with our private label store credit card who would like to use that card online. And our card is only available at our store. So it has a credit card number, but there's no expiration, there's no 3-digit code. So this was a very small workaround, but on our website at checkout, we started figuring out, okay, do you have multiple, we started adding a selector tool, which credit card you're going to use and how you're doing a deposit. And it got so complicated that you didn't want to make it long. You want to make it short and concise. So we simply put an asterisk in there. It's very low tech that says, if you're using your Simon's credit card, put in the security code 000 and put in the 1/2025 as your date. And when we see that come through, we can generally indicate that that order needs to be not processed through our regular credit card processor, but as done through our third-party financing company, which is, we use BrandSource in our store. And it was shocking, and I'll tell you, it was very exciting as a retailer to have the first order come through where someone actually read that little piece of text there and typed in those items and was confident enough to process it. First time it was exciting, second time it was great. Third time you said, wow, these little pieces of detailed information, like Terry has said, really make a huge difference in the success that you have online.
Oh, good stuff. And I guess, Terry, any thoughts on how financing should integrate in this e-com platform that our retailers have?
Yeah, I mean, the more you can integrate it, the better, obviously. And a lot of home furnishings have already had to do financing, as opposed to other e-commerce across the industry, where financing has never been quite as important. So I'm assuming that many home furnishers have your own financing set in place, either with your credit card provider, et cetera. But there are also third parties out there in the world today, if you don't have that system, that are offering the same thing. That you can plug and play into your e-commerce system if you don't have a financing option today. There's plenty of third parties out there that can offer it fairly simply, and usually it integrates very well into your checkout. You know, the better you can integrate it into your checkout and make it an easy click box, check box, etc. As Jared said, the better off you're going to be for your customers. If you make it too complicated, that is, again, talking about cart abandonment, that is one of the things that says that's too hard, I give up. I'm done. The easier you can make it, the better it is for your customers.
I have abandoned carts. I'm just going to admit that right now and get that up publicly. Jared, quick question that came in from actually from Laura Sigmundson from Laura. They are one of our retailers of the year. They asked you, how do you determine who gets the leads on your team?
So what we do is when we use a software that actually generates the leads and organizes them. So that way, if someone's live chatting us, calling us, and sending an email, it goes to one profile. So that way we're not having 3 people following up on the same customer, because you will find that consumers will live chat you, email, text you, and maybe even call all within the same hour period. And when everyone's looking at, and when 4 salespeople are doing the same thing, but what we do is we use it like an up system. So we'll go through, and generally when you're done with your customer, go back down and go look at the new open leads and take them over. Now we do have to manage it to make sure that people are not just stacking and taking more leads than they can handle. So I'm always in the back end looking to see, okay, this person took over a lead at 1 o'clock, it's 1:30 now, has that been responded to? Are they overloading themselves? And then usually first thing in the morning when we come in, we just assign the overnight leads if no one's gone on from home, because sometimes our sales staff will take their tablets home and sign in and work on leads throughout the evening. We also let them go on live chat in the evening if they have nothing to do and they'd like to do that. They are allowed to. And generally what it is that when you start a live chat or start interacting with that customer, that's when you take that lead over. And then anything that comes in that's not an assigned lead, we'll generally let people pick them up during the day. But at the end of the day and the beginning of each day, we go through manually and assign them to make sure that each person has enough stuff that they're constantly working on. So it's almost like an up system. It's exactly like an up system in the store, except because everyone has to digitally touch us before they can come in the building. That's how we kind of segment out that, if that makes sense.
Okay, and even though that came in to you from another, an entity that has, just a couple of stores. David, what about y'all? How do you manage who gets the leads in your system?
So basically what happens is, as we said, we have a dedicated team and it comes in and we sort of have a front line that goes through and if you will, qualifies the leads and what is this customer really looking for? And is it something I can handle quickly and answer for them? They'll take care of it. If it gets into a little more complex, we have we call them our internet specialist, who those leads get turned over and she immediately tries to contact the customer to engage the customer and get a little deeper into it. So we have a number of team members that take it. They're not our salespeople. Although Ina is a salesperson, she is really our internet specialist. And so we have several people who look at it off the first end when it comes in. Can I handle this question? Can I deal with it? Is it something they're trying to make a purchase online? They've got a quick question or they're having a problem with the shopping cart, whatever it happens to be. And then once they sort of triage it, then it goes to Ina, who contacts the customer. We try to contact that customer and get them engaged. So we do not really engage the salespeople. Now, if the salespeople deal with somebody, we certainly, and they go home, the consumer goes home and wants to buy online later. Terry mentioned that before. A customer comes in, they look at it, they go home, they discuss it, the husband and wife discuss it, they decide they want to make a purchase. They can go online and buy, and there's a drop down where they can pick the salesperson, and the salesperson gets credit for that sale.
Okay, and Terry, I'm assuming you're going to appreciate the consistency that both of our guests mentioned here, as far as not bouncing people around. That may be pretty obvious, but do you want to punctuate that a little bit?
Sure. I mean, a lot of what these guys are talking about is very good clienteling, basically, is what they're doing. And again, when you're talking about this, and it is a lot of times it is a disconnect in the e-commerce world today. The ability to be able to portray that information in both spots. So for a customer, even if they started in the store and went online, or started online, whatever conversations that you're having or additional suggestions that you're making, if you can make that available to them online through their account, that's a great way to do it. So the more sophisticated you can make your clienteling at this point in time, the better off you are, so that that all of the communications with you are in a single spot for them to find, is very helpful for a customer. And they don't have to dig through their email box or their text chains or anything else to remember. It's like, when I was talking to Jared, what did he say about that particular recliner? Did I text him about it? Did I email him about it? Where is that information that he gave me? The more you can aggregate that information into one spot for your customer, the better off you're going to be.
Gotcha. And I'm just curious, without talking about information that you guys don't want to share and anything like that, but if we talk percentages, what percentage of your business right now would you say you would credit to e-com? Jared, I'll start with you. Like, what are we talking about? Just so people understand. We know earlier that Terry gave us some anecdotal ideas about percentages, but what are you guys seeing?
I take the view that Terry does, that there's no such thing as an e-commerce or an in-store sale. It's an organizational sale, because we're doing such a unified selling process right now. And in order for a customer to even walk into my door now, at a minimum, they would have to call us. But we're finding that everyone's scheduling their appointment online and giving us their email, phone number, and what product category they're interested in before they even walk in the door. So on that basis, if they're shopping on the website and making an appointment online, I would say close to 75–80% has been strongly influenced by our website prior to them even coming in the door.
Wow.
And that
Okay.
actually matches pre-COVID statistics of just e-commerce in general, which is purchases influenced by e-commerce just by browsing or doing research online is 75 to 80% of purchases, in-store purchases are influenced by some digital behavior.
So let me, David, I'm going to throw it to you guys to ask that the follow-up then. But we do know that one of the big aspects from COVID after stores started reopening was a much higher percentage of transacting coming through the door. That you just had your, the sales per person walking in. So are we seeing, because of this reliance on the e-com side and everything else, are we seeing that you're absolutely converting more into sales based upon this connectivity?
Well, I mean, there's no question about it. Obviously, when the governor shut us down last March, it was March 23rd, I believe, and we saw obviously our online business spike because the customer couldn't come in the store, even if they wanted to. So
Right.
obviously we saw a big spike. Once we reopened, we saw the numbers start to trail off again a little bit because we saw the in-store traffic pick back up, and our business last year was just off the charts good. So when we look at it in terms of a percentage, what we actually attribute to what we call a true online sale. In other words, either the consumer transacted, went online, bought it online, paid for it online, and we didn't get involved with it, or if we were able to engage them and bring them in, we're looking at a number that's probably more in the 3.5% to 4% range of our total business. Now, obviously, we're a large volume retailer, and we're extremely pleased with that number. In terms of, yes, we'd like to have a bigger percentage, but I don't think we can really quantify or measure how many of our customers have actually been online, looked at it ahead of time, without interacting with us before they came in and shopped with us. Because we do business in about a 5-state area around us. We sell in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Maryland, Virginia, and Delaware. And this big store here is a destination store. So, we're not really capable of telling you how many of our customers actually went online and maybe came into the store because they did see us online. But we do know what we actually transact through the actual website where people pay with their credit card or financing and actually buy the item online.
Okay, we're talking a little bit apples and oranges here, which I get it, but okay, that is super helpful. Terry, I want to ask you.
I was just going to back that up. If you take a pure e-commerce sale that's never been interacted by us, we're in the similar percentages as David said as well.
Okay, but there's a lot of connection available, a lot of engagement available, though, that's well beyond it. I gotcha. Terry, one of the last things I want to address here, I want you to tell me is and tell everybody is that, so as we look at the fact that we just heard 2 answers here about, we know that there's a certain percentage that are pure e-com sales. We know all this connectivity to other potential avenues of sales. So how does a retailer come up with some sort of ROI so they can understand it enough to be able to say, I'm going to invest X amount of money and time and staff into this whole e-com website thing that I've got, in order to be able to say to them, yeah, it's a worthwhile investment. So if it's so integrated, how do I come up with an ROI?
It's a great question. I'm not sure I'm going to have the most specific of answers. I mean, there's always the ability to survey your customers and try to understand what kind of research and where they did their research before they're coming to your store, so that you can get an idea of how they're looking and what they're looking for, and potentially what you could offer them that is better. It's become so integral to any shopping purchase that you are doing digital research that it's almost hard for me to say that that you can't do it. Like I think it's one of these things you're at the point that says you are hard pressed to say I can't offer it. And and I would ask Dave and Jared at what they think would have happened to their business, particularly in the middle of COVID, if they had not had an internet, a digital site for customers to have gone to look at. So I heard Dave say that they had whopping business, which is congratulations, that's great. And but what would have happened if you did not have that? If you did not have that channel for the customers and your stores were closed, I guess is probably the question that I would ask that, because it's almost too hard to measure at this point in time what the ROI is.
David, take it on.
Well, so, I mean, obviously we recognized a number of years ago that it's our new front door. I mean, it happens to be another store, if you will, for us to do business on and really transact, if you will, commodity type business and pick up some of that business that obviously someone else would get if we weren't doing it. Okay, so if you don't have the capability of transacting online, you're not going to get the $2.99 recliner or the whatever it happens to be, the sofa table or the accent chest that somebody wants to buy that they would go to Wayfair or somebody else to buy from if you're not there to provide that. But certainly without it during COVID, I mean, we would have really had no way of communicating with the customers effectively to engage them and continue to at least do some business. And our business was strong. It certainly wasn't what we normally do, again, because of our size. It's not near what we would have done, if our doors were open. But at the same time, it enabled us to continue to do business. And then once we reopened, it was sort of, became icing on the cake. It was gravy on top of what we were already doing in store and when the foot traffic returned.
Okay. Jared, any comments on?
We found that I think if we didn't have the website and the investments that we already been making in prior years, we would have had a much slower recovery and probably would not have been as successful as we were in 2020 and as we are in 2021. It was really important to lay that groundwork down, and if we didn't have it, I don't think that we would have reopened as quickly and been as successful as we were. We were able to have a great 2020. I think if we weren't able to find that footing in the beginning of April with e-commerce sales, we would have just had a slower recovery, is what I would describe it as.
And I would wrap this conversation up with, be careful about how you judge ROI on a website. You can certainly judge it by pure transactions and revenue that come through it, which will lead you to underinvest, quite honestly. One of the major things that your storefront online does, it is a marketing and advertising tool. So you have to factor that into your ROI expectations. So many retailers have made the mistake of just saying, I do X transactions and I get this much money from it, and therefore this is my spend level. And you are selling yourself short at that point in time.
Great way to wrap it up. So let me go ahead and review right now the many takeaways that we have had from this webinar today. We're going to put these up on the full screen here and kind of walk through them with you to show you the kind of things that we have learned, just the highlights really. Consider engaging your customers that purchase online by phone, as facilitating a conversation about their purchase may result in an upgraded purchase decision. And that's not if, that's a lot of times very likely. Mention here that Simon's Furniture integrates online leads into a rotation system to ensure a fair distribution of opportunities while ensuring customers get the help they deserve. We've got some more here. 49% of people that add product to a cart that don't complete their purchase are doing so because of other costs they're viewing as too high. So one of the things that Terry said is put as much information you can up front relating to additional costs, and that might keep people in the cart and get them a checkout. If your e-com site requires an account to be created during the checkout process, you will see increased cart abandonment issues. Take that one to the bank. Capture customer contact information early in the checkout process and quickly reach out to earn sales when they do not complete the purchase. Simon's single store, 30,000 square feet, Johnny Janosic, all their stores, both of them aggressively do this and have had great success in doing that. Across industries, e-com saw increases of 5 to 20% growth during 2020. E-com made 15% of a retailer's business as a national average. Also, due to inventory issues, Simon's Furniture began branding in-stock products as available for express delivery to help customers understand that the items are available. Also, consider placing available products on your website into a searchable category so consumers can quickly locate what they are looking for. Phenomenal takeaways. I want to thank our three guests today. Terry Pewson, who is a senior consultant with Fit for Commerce. And by the way, a reminder that there is a handout from them on the right side of your screen. Please download it before you leave. Jared Simon from Simon's Furniture. Appreciate you being here. Tell your dad I said hello. And Dave Kohler and your team from Johnny Janosic. We really appreciate you guys providing such great context. I also want to mention to you that this is a recorded webinar as well. So if you'd like to share this with anybody that you know, please go to myhfa.org/webinar, and you will find all the information you need there to link them up to this webinar and others. And also, I have to tell you that brains like Terry's and others, we provide them to you here at the Home Furnishings Association as part of your membership. We connect you with people that can answer a lot of these questions. So that was a fast hour. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you being here, and for everybody joining us, as always, we wish you good health, good sales, and we will see you next time.